Hello, everyone. Welcome here to Your World or Mine. Show me yours and I'll show you mine. And today we have beautiful Yvette here from all the way from Auckland, New Zealand. And she's an amazing woman. You'll soon discover why I say so. And trust me, I'm an alien. I'm from another planet and I know my stuff. So Yvette, I'm really curious, what is happening in your world currently? What's going on?
With my writing, I am working on my third book, and I have my first two books which have come out, which I'm marketing my books, which are already out, and I'm editing the third book in my series, The Chronicles of Aden Weaver.
Well, that sounds very interesting. And what is it all about? My mind just go like to conceive what you and perceive what you just said. What is the title again?
The title of the series is The Chronicles of Aden Weaver. Mm-hmm. It's a fantasy adventure series for 9 to 13-year-old readers. Mm-hmm. And yeah, so I have the first two books out already, which first two books are Oran of Tane Mahuta. They're Māori sounding words, so they can be a little bit difficult for people from other countries. And the second book is called The Sasori Empire. And I'm working on the third book now, which is called The Last Tree.
Ah, wow. It's very interesting what happens to my body when you speak about it.
Yes.
I get all tingling all over. So that's really, yeah, really awesome, especially here. Something is happening when you speak about it. So Yvette, I'm curious, how did you start with them? What was that impulse that created you to start the first one?
Well, it's an interesting story because when I started out writing this series was in 2005. Believe it or not, it's taken me this long. It started out as a series of children's picture books, so for very young readers. And I was illustrating the books myself. Now, anybody who has anything to do with painting and art knows how much work goes into paintings. I was putting all my hours into these illustrations, going with these stories, and I was really working on them. And then I went to a children's writing workshop with the wonderful author and teacher over here in New Zealand, Kate de Goldie. And I went to a workshop with her and I showed her my manuscripts. And she looked at them and she said, wow, I can see how much work is going into these. She said, have you ever thought of focusing on one or the other, the writing or the art? Because she said, I really think you need to choose a path and go that way and put all your attention into that. So I really didn't need to think about it. As much as I loved my art, it was the words, always the words, makes me emotional to talk about it. It's always the stories. That's where my heart is. So it didn't take me long to decide. I made the decision. I thought, yep, it's the writing. That's where I've got to go. So I dropped all illustrative attempts, all work, put it all aside. And I started to do more courses, workshops, and I started to work on the writing, on the craft of the story. And I put all my energy into that. And the really interesting thing that happened from that was all these characters that I had been doing these picture books about. The story that I sat down and started to write then was the same characters, but they were 10 years older. And I ended up, every day I would sit at my desk and write, and it would just flow. And I never had to think about what I'd written before. It would just pick up from where I'd left off. And I would just flow then I'd put it down, do whatever I needed to do with the kids and etc. And then come back to it and just pick it up. And again, from the word that I had stopped on, it would carry on. And I carried on until the story was done. And what I ended up with was a 300,000 word story, which is far, far, far too big for a book. So I ended up, I thought, okay, this is an epic story, but it needs to be serialized. So I chopped it into 3, and I realized the age group was more in the what they call upper middle grade, which is 9 to 13-year-old age bracket. And I made each story a distinct story unto itself and worked on each one as a book. So that created the first 2 books. And then the third book is the third part of that epic, is the last part of the story is what I'm working on now.
Wow.
That's the story.
I'm really great. I'm really delighted that you share that it's just flowing, it's just coming.
Yes.
I myself have that experience when I write stories. I can just sit down for 4 months and the story will just come. It doesn't matter what, like you say, it doesn't matter. I don't think about it. And the characters create the story themselves, rather than me thinking it up. Because people ask me, but where do you get the ideas? And
yes, that's what they say.
And it's like, they just come. You must just be available for them. They're choosing you to come through you.
Yes.
And then the flow starts. So there's no, for me, I don't know about you, but for me, it's not an energy draining thing. It just happens.
No.
Yeah. And that's the magic of it.
That's the magic of it. And the incredible part about that is that you know you're on the right path when you're doing the work you want to do. And not only is it not an energy drain, but it fills you with energy. You are, when I'm working on my stories, I can do more hours at a stretch than I can with anything else in my life. I have untold energy when it comes to creative writing. Yeah, it just beams out of you like from every crevice.
You're in the zone. Yeah, I call you in the zone, and like you say, it's just happening, and you don't get tired. I can go also on for day. I didn't really want to sleep, and I'm in a different situation than you. You have little ones at home, but I could literally go on and on and on without realizing it's actually now day or night, because you're in that flow, and it like you said, energizes you. And I love what you're saying, that you know you're on the right path. When that's happening, whatever you do, it doesn't matter what your medium is of expressing your soul. It could be you fixing the plumbing. That's also good.
Yes.
Because, it's just, you can go on forever and you don't get tired. It's not a job.
Yes, that's it.
Wow.
Exactly.
But I'm really curious about this character, this main character of yours.
Yes.
Without divulging too much, in the first book, what's really happening in the book? Just in a few.
Well, there's a complex mythology that is behind the book, behind the world, which in the beginning I had in the story, and then I took out of the story, and I just have the mythology on the website because I felt it was too much to have in the book as well. But the story is essentially about a boy who thinks he's an orphan, a boy who was raised by his grandparents, except he's raised by his grandparents in captivity, as it were. They keep him under lock and key, and what he doesn't realize is he's the last one of a very special line. And all the characters are shapeshifters. They morph from human form into insects. So they're able to go between very small and human size. So they have this incredible ability to change shape. And his line is the son of, it's called the son of Carl. So he is the last son of Carl. So he doesn't know that. So he starts off the book, he's in captivity, he's alone. All he has is his grandparents. But he wants to get out into the world. So his grandparents begrudgingly decide, okay, you're old enough now, you can start fight training. At least you can do that. So they send him off and he starts fight training with his fight trainer. That's his one activity he's allowed to do. And from there, the secrets begin to come out of who he is, where he's from, that the Lost Island. I had the idea of this lost island, an island that's off the coast of New Zealand, that is hidden by this shroud of mist that is given to them by the god Tāne Mahuta, the god of small creatures, forests, insects, everything to do with the forest. So he has created this sanctuary for them. And the sanctuary is important because all the endangered insect species of the world are actually sheltered there, though nobody knows that. But it will keep the planet alive eventually, if need be. And so there's this wonderful island off the coast, and that's invisible to everybody else. Now, there's an object at the center of the whole story, and that is what it turns into a quest to get this object. The object is the Oran of Tāne Mahuta. And I'll tell you a little secret since we're on the line, and I've never told anybody else, that the word Oran is a shortened version of the word origin. So it means it's the origin of everything. So this Oran, the stone that was given to their people by the god Tāne Mahuta, is stolen from the Lost Island. And that's what turns into, only the son of Carl can get the stone. And once he learns his true identity in the first book, in the second book, the quest begins to get the Oran, which is going to safeguard the Lost Island. So there's a précis of this big world of mythology and the story that is behind this. A friend of mine, P.J. Reese, he's quite a well-known American author, he said that always when there is a quest, when there is something that you have your characters, your main characters striving for, they're reaching for it, they're searching for it. The object of the quest is always the self. So when you have a quest story, which is at the basis of your prose, it is to do with your main character searching for themselves. It's his search for his essence, for his meaning, for his fulfillment of who he really is. And that's what happens over the whole story, is this lost boy in the beginning who has nothing, finding himself.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
You know what comes up for me now as you're speaking about? Firstly, my body is like, my body responds so amazingly to what you're sharing. I'm a tuning fork. So I can feel and sense this, what's happening to him as you speak about it, which is absolutely amazing for me as me. Now I can just imagine for a 9 to 13-year-old and even older,
Yes.
me, my inner child wants to know more.
Yes.
But it's incredible the impact such stories can have on one's reality and on your experience of life.
Yes.
And what I really treasure about this is that even if we go to developmental psychology, between the ages of about 7 and 14, the children is busy developing their emotional intelligence.
Yes.
And as you speak about it, immediately it's in that specific age group that you are focusing on. Not to say that others won't enjoy it. I think likewise, doesn't matter of your age, it is that to be stimulated at that level as a child, to go into this fantasy world has a huge impact on your life. Just the understanding that you can search for your essence.
Yes.
And that's absolutely amazing. Because I just imagine if I was like 9 years old and I heard such a story, I cannot explain what would have happened to my life, because it would have triggered so much and stimulated so much. We are so ripe at that age to be stimulated on such levels. And now you're also really, the imagination is going wild of the possibilities. And instead of us closing down in a educational system where, you know, there's a lot more control over what we hear and perceive, this is just blasting it all open. So that's absolutely amazing. I don't know if you ever heard of the book Lord of the Flies.
Yes, I read it as a young person.
Now, you know, the other day I was saying to somebody that I still cannot believe they made us read that. At such a young age. I think we were 8 or 9. It was, if I just think back of it now as not as, I don't like to use the word adults, but now looking back, it scarred me for life. Because it was so real. You know, if you really used your imagination and your sensory imagination, moreover, it became so terrifying real.
Yes.
And I was just thinking earlier today, I was putting on the television, which I hardly ever do now, just put the television on, and there was this, I can't even remember the program's name, but it was all about, instead of a quest where you look for yourself, it's all fighting this evil thing out there. Yes. And it's focused on little ones, the specific program. So now I just want to now put the two together, like that type of story. It's also a story, a reality, and what you're sharing here is my body's responding completely different to what you're sharing to what when I watched that, just for a few moments.
Yes. Yeah.
And to see what happens just in my body with my cells, you know, like what's their response to what's coming in from the outside.
That's so interesting.
So I can now just imagine for a little one, you know, from 9 to 13. The difference is what's even whether they're aware of it or not, it's happening in the body.
Yeah.
The different reactions. And that's something, when I speak about it, I get a very strong feeling here at my throat. You know, it's like, it's something that needs to be said in the world, that we must be very careful what imprints our little ones take on. Yes. So conscious parenting links into that. And it's not that we want to control what they see or anything like that. It's more of just being aware of what can happen to them for the rest of, it's an imprint on the rest of their life. When they come into the world, I always show the younger ones page. You come into the world like this, on a blank page.
Yes.
And everybody and everything that comes into your experience is a mark on this page.
Yes.
Now imagine what our pages look like when we're 30, 40, 50 years old. And it starts at that young age. So I am so grateful that that type of gift that you have, that preciousness of it, because in my body it created, and again, if I'm just thinking about it and feeling into it, these sensations of aliveness. It's not this death thing. It's not, I need to go and conquer a dark force. Yes, I'm going on a quest, but it's completely different focus. And I think that's two different things that one must think about, you know?
Yeah.
You know, I'm really quite curious about if ones who've been here longer would read such books. And I know my own books as well. A lot of people think it's for children, but sometimes
Yeah.
I know it's also for the ones who've been here longer.
Yes.
Because of just from where we come, the conditioning where we come from. I don't know about you, but when I was young, these type of stories were not really available. We didn't have the internet, we didn't have television at that time yet. So we went for a very different learning curve of this discovery curve.
Yes.
So if I now have to ask you in terms of the ones who came more recently, the younger ones, what would you tell them to stimulate this imagination of theirs, this fantasy world? Because everything today is so easy at hand. I can just grab my phone and go into Google. I don't have to think anymore. And I'm seeing everything in front of me, so I don't have to use my imagination.
Yes.
So my visual perception is just there for me. So how can younger ones stimulate and ignite their imagination more?
I think the really important thing, and I know it's so hard because it's the same with my children, is that they are so focused on their devices that it's really hard for them to have device-free time. However, it's so important. So as a parent, what I do with my kids is I take them away. Every school holiday break that we have a device-free holiday, and we go away from the city to the country, by the beach in our case, and we have no devices for that entire time, and they have to go outside, they have to run around, they have to swim, they have to climb, because they've got nothing else to do. Then they take their balls out and they really connect with nature, and it is so important for keeping some of their ability to wind down, to not be overstimulated, to bring that level down a bit and just be with the sea or so for them, that's what we do. For somebody who is a writer or who is creative, device-free time is so important. So if I was starting out as a writer, I would take a pen and paper even, or you can take whatever, but something that you can write a word if you get it. You can jot down an inspiration that comes to you, or even an image. But go out, connect with nature. And what I have the same writing teacher I was talking about before, Kate de Goldie, feels very strongly a similar thing to what you said earlier, and that is that children's books are not actually children's books, they're everyone's books. And she doesn't write specifically to an age group, so her work is considered children's literature. She considers she's writing for everyone. That's her outlook. And so I always have really gravitated to her point of view. And so her advice to me when I left, the last time I did a course with her, was she said, make sure every day, even if you're tired, even if you've got other things that need to be done, take your pen and paper, because I was working with pen and paper to have that special writing time, and go and sit down with your pen and paper and say to yourself, I'm not getting up until either one of two things. I've written for 10 minutes or done 2 pages, but I'm not getting up until I've done that. And I know there's someone else, I think, what's her name? Her name is escaping me, but she calls it daily pages.
Julia Cameron?
Yes. Okay, so this is a very similar idea, and these people who they're the ones who are leading the way, and they know these things. So if they're advocating it, there's something in it. So it's you just set aside that bit of time and you write. And what Kate said was, even if you don't know what you're going to write and you just start off writing blah, 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 keep on going. Don't stop until that prescribed period of time is up. And I found every single time that, for me anyway, I would just write, I would be writing fiction from the roof. I never had to write blah, blah, blah. It was, there's something about setting aside, especially if you can make it a regular time. Your body, your writing angels, whoever is with you in whatever, you know, channel you are, if you are setting aside a time, then that energy will be there. It will flow. And so create a little bit of structure like that. Make that time, the daily pages, whatever you want to call it, and keep to it. And make sure you have some device-free time as well. It's so important for the creative soul to be able to disconnect from the noise, from what everybody is worrying about now. And I have a spiritual mentor as well, and she said that now, from now, and especially going into the future, there is going to be more and more distraction. And so it becomes more and more and more vital for the people, the people who are creative and who need to have a clear channel, who need to, I say to my nephews and my nieces that, because they're always trying to tell me the terrible thing that has happened now in the world, and this has happened, and aren't you aware of this terrible thing? And the thing is, yes, I am. I watch the news, I keep up with those things, but at the same time, as a creative person, I have to have one foot out of that world, or otherwise I can't create. If I'm in the machinations of what everybody else is worried about, I can't create. So I have to be able to just say, okay, now I'm putting that aside for a minute and I'm creating. It's a different energy, it's a different space, and you have to make that, you have to create it. You have to put effort into it if need be, and create it as actually vital, important, necessary, just as necessary as buying the groceries. Yeah.
Yeah, there's so much wisdom in what you're sharing, regardless of who we are. It doesn't matter your age or what you're busy doing in life. It's like we sleep every night. And some people who work at night sleep during the day. But you need this time for yourself. No, regardless of what you do out, whether you're doing a creative type activity or not, to take that time out for yourself. And you'll be surprised if you think you're not creative. You are creative every day. Just waking up, the way you get up in the morning, the way you eat your breakfast, the way you speak to others, the way you present yourself to the world, is all creative. And what we now talk about is a creative, expressive art of writing, for example, in this case now. But whatever it is you do, it's the same thing apply. To take time for yourself out, and like you say, these distractions are already coming more and more. And the more I speak to those who came more recently, the teenagers, the young adults, the overwhelm is just so much. Like they say, where we come from, the time when we were born, for example, we were very lucky because we didn't have all these distractions.
That's right.
We could go and play outside. That's the only thing we had to do at the time. So we did it naturally. But they believe that we actually are more fortunate than them, even though they have all the information available now and everything at hand. Yes. But these distractions causes a lot of confusion and overwhelm and doubt. What should I do now? Choices, how to make decisions.
Yes.
And what you're sharing about now is simply, if you're confused, start writing. Doesn't matter what you write. You don't have to go and look at it afterwards. Just empty your mind of all the confusion, of all the emotions that you're feeling. Instead of judging them, just write about them. And you don't have to look at it again, because that already puts you into this connection between your hand and your mind, your body. It's a body-mind connection. And it's something that happens on the subconscious level as well, that emptying of the mind.
Yeah.
So there's so much power in that. And you'll find sometimes that that could become your hobby, the writing thing, for example. And like you say, then you become a channel for something that wants to be written through you. And you might think you're not creative. You might think you don't have that gift. But once you start, it's contagious. It just starts happening. It's spontaneous. And when you stop, I don't know about you, but when you stop, I can tell you exactly the times in my life when I stopped in my creative expression, and I didn't do my dancing or my writing or my drawing, whatever it was. I can tell you exactly when that was, because my body, I started feeling either depressed or lack of energy, or I'm not somebody who gets ill easily, but I felt grumpy or frustrated because I stopped that. And I can tell you the exact date sometimes because I knew I stopped writing then, for example, or expressing my creative energy in a powerful and meaningful way. And once you're in that flow, like you said earlier, it just starts. It just goes on and on and on.
Yeah.
Now Yvette, I'm fascinated. You've got little ones.
Yes.
Now, what do you do to, you now shared you're going away on holiday, vacation, where it's device free. What else do you do to stimulate their creativity, if at all? Do you?
Well, I always, ever since the kids have been little, we've always had the only thing that is of theirs that is allowed to be out at this end of the house is the art box. So we have a big cube that is full of every single possible material, resource you could need: pens, scissors, rulers, papers, books, glue, staplers, everything you could need to create. You could create anything from that box. So our art box, I'm looking at it right now, it's in the corner of the room. It has always been there, and it's open. It's an open box. It doesn't have to be opened. So the kids will gravitate there whenever they will, oh, I need to draw a picture, and they just grab their stuff and they can work. And I think you create the material, you provide the materials, always have them available, always have them easy to hand. Kids these days, everything is easy, everything is provided. They don't have to try as much or effort for things. And so if that art box is not easily accessible, they're not going to probably, in my experience, open it. But we have an open box. And so it's always available, and they just dip in. And that is it's a simple thing, but it's an incredible resource to always have available. It's always available 24 hours a day. It's available, and make it easy for them to choose creative outlet, creative time. And also it's having that mindset yourself. We're having a similar approach, because my thing, I always say, if I have friends who I'm aware that they do not have a creative outlet, then I have concern for them. And my belief, and I always say to people, if you do not have a creative outlet, start to find one. Open yourself to what could be creatively interesting to you, that you might start to try your hand at and then go with. Try different things. Everybody is different. But for instance, my mother, she didn't have writing at her thing was to knit or crochet, and even to the end of her life, when her mind was not the same, she still could create. I've got one right here. They're called meditation blankets, and this one's rolled up, but I just use it to lean on in front of my computer. But she created those, and her feeling was always, if I meet someone who's down and out, if I meet someone who's sad, if I come across someone who's who is going through a terrible time in their life, I can give them a meditation blanket. And it gave her, even to the very end of her days, meaning and a path. Someone, she could be of help in her own way. She was creating and giving. And that's part of the creative process. You don't create and hold to yourself in most cases. You create and share.
Sure.
And so whatever you whatever you can create, share it in whatever way that you can. And even if it's just everything the kids do, the most recent artwork, everything is always on the fridge, and it gets pride of place on the front of the fridge. And they want to have that spot. And everybody comes and sees it and comments, and it creates a really good cycle. Yeah.
I love what you're
So
saying.
my question.
Because you're speaking about purpose, like your mom, she had purpose till the end. And that's one of the most amazing parts of being human, to have purpose.
Yes.
So if I'm just now speaking to the ones who came more recently, who maybe feel isolated, not belonging, not fitting in, like you say, try whatever it is. And I always say, in my experience, if you have resistance to something, or if you say, I can't do this, know that then you can. you just need to change your body, perhaps, the pose that you sit in, your posture, and maybe look at it from another angle, and just stop doing it. Because resistance, if you take the word resistance in English, it's stance. Re means again, I is me, the human, and stance is my posture. So how am I looking at this thing? It's a perception in your mind that you are not creative. And like you say, start doing stuff. You'll find out the one that really makes you feel alive. And the one that makes you feel alive, like you said earlier, your decision that you had to make between illustrations and writing and just writing, you will feel alive. You'll know this is the thing. And then nothing can stop you. And even if you have doing something else, another activity, whether you study, even your study process will be much easier because energy is continuously flowing through you. Even in that moments of study, because you're in that zone. So your perception is heightened. So you're taking much more that you can now give it out in an exam, for example. Just try it. I tell you now, I guarantee everybody who's watching us, it's a guarantee that it works. and we laugh so nicely now, and it's about laughter as well, because when you're speaking, I feel your passion.
Yes.
And I always say to people that other people get attracted and they gravitate towards our passions.
Yes, that's right.
And I think where we are in the world now, there's transition going on, and some might not experience it, and that's okay. In the past, everything had to be sold. Like if you wrote a book, it had to be sold.
Yes.
And still, but we're now moving to a time where it's when people begin, because of we're just living in a different time, especially with the little ones, their perceptions very different than ours who's been here longer. But we're moving into a time where people now are attracted to feeling our passions and experiencing it in whatever way is true to them. So it's not us running after them anymore to say, for example, here's my piece of artwork, or here's my book, or come to my dancing thing, whatever it is. It's when we express our presence, our passion, it creates a lot of curiosity. People want to experience it too.
Yes.
So when and I want to link that to purpose. So if you do something that gives you purpose, besides your own experience, you influence everybody around you.
Yes.
Because it's impossible for me not to be influenced by you now, because your passion was creating such an energy in me that my whole body responded. Now I'm going to the next level. I want to go and buy your books now. I want to read them myself. So that's my next question. How can one get hold of your books? Are they available on Amazon? Where are they?
They are available on Amazon, yes. Yes.
And do you have audiobooks as well?
I have, so I have the first 2 books in the series on Amazon, and also I participated in, I had a story involved in a book that was put together, which is a book of advice for writers, and that was put together by the Insecure Writers Support Group, which is a worldwide group, and they put out, I think they put out a book every year. So one of my articles was included in that book. That book is also on the Amazon page. And then also on the Amazon page is Kissed by an Angel, which is a collaboration, myself and a number of children's authors, which we did as the charity effort to raise funds for Sturge Weaver Syndrome Foundation. My friend, who's a writer, has a child with Sturge Weaver syndrome, which is relatively unknown, but we put this book together to support the foundation, their fundraising efforts. So that book is on there too. If on my website, because I have a website as well, on the landing page, it also has, you can click on the links for the books and it goes through to the Amazon page. So it's all available there. Yeah.
That's wonderful. I just have a feeling that from an audiobook perspective, if you tell the stories yourself as well, like speaking it out, it will also have a very interesting impact.
Yes.
Because your passion comes through your voice and the vibration of the words, it triggers something on other levels. It goes directly to the psyche. So I think that could be extremely powerful as well. Just from my perspective, on my little planet where I am.
Do you need to talk about the books?
No,
actually
like an audio book.
Oh, right.
Because I'm just going back in my memories to when I was a child. And that excitement when somebody, for me, there's some magic when somebody reads to me, still today. There's something else in my body that happens. It's a more whole person experience. Then when I have to read, yes, I love to touch a book. Buying a book on Amazon is good, but I love to have the texture of the page, the smell of the page.
Yes,
but when you hear it as well, it's something different. It's just a different experience because all your cells hear it at the same time. That's 7 trillion cells.
Yes.
And they all respond to it. Yeah, that could be extremely powerful.
I was interested in the idea of, that whole idea of the audiobooks was put to me, I think it was about 2 years ago, and I started to look into it. And at the time I was looking from the point of view, because I was told I spoke to a number of what they call voice artists, and I was put off of the idea. They said that it has to be done by a professional, and the professional voice artists are top of the line. They absolutely, they are the best at what they do, and they can charge a fortune. And so I started down that path, found it very difficult to go any further, and I sort of lost steam with it. So now you saying it again is bringing it back to my attention again, and I'm going, that's right, I started to think about that. So it has come up before.
Yeah, for me personally, I've gone through that path too, but I was always, I just had an inner knowing that's not the path to go.
Right.
And for me, with you specifically, because your voice is extremely powerful, the way you're speaking about, because it's your passion, it birthed through you. I really personally have a big resistance against them giving it to somebody else who can read it 1,000 times and still won't have that passion behind the words.
Yes.
It's about the frequency of the words, the vibration that's coming through, the essence of them. It's the essence.
Yes.
Because I can now go and tell somebody else about your beautiful books and the way you explained that, the first two, but it would not have even the slightest same impact on another human being, because it's coming through me, not through you. Because it's not my book, it's your book.
Right.
And I think if we now link it back to the young ones with their creative abilities, is to encourage them, whoever you are, to use all your sensibilities to whatever you express.
Yes.
When you hear your own words, when you've written something, if you've written like a 2-page story, for example, read it out loud for yourself and use your device, your magical device, and record it. And go and lie on the bed or go and lie on the grass outside, even better. Put on your earphones and listen to it.
Yes, it's wonderful.
Because then you start to have an integrated experience, because you're putting it out and at the same time you're receiving it back.
Yes.
But in that process, it starts to expand. And what you were sharing about earlier, that flow, that the zone that we become into, becomes more an embodied experience. And it gives us more self-confidence when we hear our own stories as well. Wow! Because we don't really realize when we've written it, for example, how powerful it is actually. But when we're on the receiving end, just in a relaxed way, listen to it, it's incredible.
I love it. It's fantastic. You've given me a wonderful idea.
Now, with the little ones, this is powerful for them to hear, for example, their own creations. And if you, for example, somebody who likes to draw or paint, talk about it. Look at your paint, your drawing, and start talking about it. And again, record yourself and listen to that. It's a different way of art expression, but record yourself and listen to that. What did you say about this? What do you see today? Because tomorrow you might look at it and you might see something very different yourself. And that's how external people will experience it too. I've got, like behind me, here is a painting behind me. And every time I look at it, I see something different. This is on my painting. It's the same with books. You read a book, I don't know your experience, but in my experience, you read a book, and if you read it like 2-3 years later, completely different experience.
Yes, very much so.
Sure, Yvette, you have such a powerful voice, and there's energy that just stirs up when you start speaking. And I know you do public speaking as well, like Toastmasters. Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, you've really, these things are linking in so beautifully, because when you were talking about resistance, that is the thing I've had the most resistance to throughout my whole life, because as a young person, I was humiliated on stage a couple of times because I was always wanting to be at the front. And so I was always the lead singer, and I was always the main person at the front. And through being out the front, I got humiliated a couple of times on stage in front of big auditoriums of people, and it shut me down. So from the age of about 12, I completely shut down any desire to be on stage, to talk to people, to be at the front. I didn't want anything to do with that, and it turned into an issue, a personal problem. And so as I was going through the years, and I was getting to the point of, so this was in 2014, I realized I'm almost ready to put my first book out, and I will not be able to stand in front of people and talk to them about it. I am completely hampered by my own fear of public speaking. And I knew that, and for years I had known I should go to Toastmasters and overcome this, but I resisted it, and I resisted it fiercely until that point in 2014. And I realized I can't anymore. I'm going to have to overcome this. So I reached out to Toastmasters, and I went along and I said to them, okay, I'm going to join, but I'm going to need all you guys to hold my hand. That's how scared I was. And so through that process of forcing myself to, I remember the first time that I had to stand up and speak, my heart started to pump so hard that I said to people afterwards, it felt like there was a herd of elephants stamping on my chest. It was just going like that. And I didn't think I would be able to get a word out. But what surprised me was the moment I stood on that stage and said that first word, the rest of the words came. I realized that that intense, overwhelming, paralyzing fear stopped the moment I took the action. The moment I stepped over it and did it anyway, the words came. And my second speech that I did just happens to be, because the club was having a competition, happened to be in a competition situation, and I won it. And I went on, that was on my very second speech that I ever gave, and I went on through the next levels and got 2 levels up in the competition. and I ended up getting a second place in the division contest. Anyway, I have gone on from there, and I'm still in Toastmasters now, in my 4th year, obviously, and I absolutely love it now. That's the incredible thing. I've gone from 2 polar opposites. I've gone from being paralyzed by it to when I know it's my day that I have to give a speech, I know I can do it. And I get up there and your heart will still pump, but the moment you start to take the action, the moment I talk, I can just see, I can see them. I can see their reaction to me. I can see them wanting more. I can see them leaning in, and it just flows out of me. And I guess I'm using that word flow again, but it's amazing, the transformation. So I've done 2 book launches now where I have stood up and given a 10-minute speech without notes and said everything that was in me that needed to be said. And it still amazes me. I'm still in wonderment about it. It's a miracle.
And that miracle that you're speaking about now is, like you say, just start. The
Yes.
fear is nothing after you've just started. It dissipates. Yes. And you're still here. You're still here with us. And so is everybody else. Whatever it is that you fear, just go and do it. Yes. And you will still wake up tomorrow morning and you'll be able to do it again and again and again. Whatever it might be that you fear. Oh, Yvette, thank you so much for joining us today. We're going to share your information after the podcast with everybody who wants to get your books. I'm going to be one of them to get your books and share it forward as well. Please, everybody, if you have, and like I truly feel it's for everybody. It's not specifically 9 to 13. Wherever you are, you're going to enjoy it. My body's responding to that, to tell you that's a big possibility. So, Yvette, and also thank you for your inspiration with the public speaking of your own story, and your wonderful, wonderful series is going to be such a blessing for everybody else. And that just to stimulate this idea of we having this essence inside of ourselves. In whatever way we want to go on a quest in our lives. It's a big guidance type experience as well. So thank you for that. Yvette, before we part, do you have a special message for the ones who came more recently?
I would just say, listen to your heart. Really take the time and listen. Yeah.
Thank you. That's beautiful. Listen to your heart. Thank you. And thank you, Yvette.
Thank you.
We're really looking forward to your third book as well. And all the best with that. And I'm
Thank
sure
you.
we're going to be able to share more in the future. Thank you so much for joining us today. And everybody, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you.